Oh, pray for these eyelashes, Lord. Pray, pray. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are at. This is Plot Twist Please. I'm Shemaya. It sounds like papaya, except it's not. It's so good to see you back. I'm so glad you're here because this is the Casting Colorism and Redefining Black Art segment that I'm doing with Myesha-Tiara McGarner. And I'm so glad that we're doing this. She is the artistic director of one of the very few Black-owned theaters in Chicago. Something that I've been really into lately, and I talked about this on my Friday Faves, which is on the blog. I love the show Astronomy Club. It's so funny. It's so funny. It reminds me of this group that I was part of in college called ODB, Out the Box, improv and sketch comedy. And it reminds me of that group. And it's just such a good space. It's such a good place it's so good. I just really like it. I really like it a lot. And so I recommend it if you are a Black person looking for Black-centered art. So Perceptions Theater Company is in the south side of Chicago, and it's fairly new. Their most recent project, which I'm actually so grateful to have been a part of, it's called the Black Baptism series. So it's a series of monologues that they're doing that are centered around the Black experience and different facets of it. And I think it's super important to highlight the different kinds of Black experience. We're not a monolith. There are parallels within what we've experienced, and just in terms of the overarching theme of white supremacy and how it's infiltrated all of our lives. But I think it's also important to note the differences of how it's impacted different kinds of Black people. All of those experiences matter. And if that's something that you're interested in, I'd go ahead and check out the Perceptions Theater Facebook page or their website, where tonight they're actually releasing the entire series along with the talkback that I was a part of. There are producers on there, recording artists, poets. It's a great group of people, and I just feel so honored to have been a part of it. So go ahead and check that out on their Facebook page or their website, Perceptions Theater Company. Also, there's a link in the description below to donate to Perceptions Theater because support Black art, support Black businesses. I thought I'd clarify some things before we dive into this particular segment. So during the conversation with Myesha today, you're going to hear conversations about racially ambiguous actors. First of all, I'm not here to legitimize or delegitimize anyone's Blackness. That's not my job. That's not my prerogative. That's not for me to debate. The other thing that I would like to note is that I'm also not here to make the claim that art that is focused on the Black struggle is not important, because it is. It's important to know our history, and it always will be, and those stories will always be valuable. But really what I'm referring to in this episode is a balance, and I think you'll get that sense once you listen closer later on. In terms of other news, the next episode of the podcast is going to be focused on Black women, and I'm very passionate about Black liberation, especially as it comes to Black womanhood and however that presents itself in society. Somebody said that when you are going about revolution and liberating a community, you have to work from the bottom up. So that means that the most disenfranchised need to be tended to first, and then it'll all become balanced once we work from the bottom up. Because what ends up happening is when we focus on the people who are most visible, and everybody else gets forgotten, and the conversation ends up getting skewed, and we miss very important detail, and people fall through the cracks. So that's something that I wanted to highlight, and you'll hear more about it in this episode. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you Myesha-Tiara McGarner, and we're going to continue on with this very important conversation. Yeah. And here she is. Hi.
Hi, nice to see you.
You too. Thank you so much for joining today.
Of course.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. So let's just jump right in, shall we? How old are you and where are you from?
I am 27 years old. My birthday is July 16th, though, so I'll be turning 28 pretty soon.
Ah.
um, and I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh, wow. Oh, neat. I've never been to Louisiana, but I feel like I would love it. I feel
You
like I would
need to
love the
go.
food. I do need to go.
Yes, yes. Like I've been in Chicago for 3 years now, and I'm telling you, this winter, it
Oh,
almost makes me
no.
want to go back home.
Oh, I'm so sorry we did that to you. Oh my
Yes, this
gosh. My
winter
condolences.
is. But
Um,
I mean, it's been pretty fine lately since we're all stuck in the house, so I'm good.
true. Turn the AC on. It's all good.
Yeah.
Um, so how did you get into theater?
Actually started in theater when I was 5 years old. My parents worked late, so I would stay at school at an after-school program they had. And so one day they said, "Hey, do you want to do this play or do you want to go play outside?" And it was really hot that day. And so, my 5-year-old mind, I was like, I'm not going outside and sweating. I'll go read the play. I don't know what that is, but I'll go read it. And so I read the play and like we did a production, and literally my very first role ever was me walking on stage to buy a lollipop, and then I walked off stage.
Oh, love that.
And like all it took was those like 4 or 5 seconds, and I was like, I'm an actor.
Yes, officially. Love those moments.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's
so
how it all started.
yeah. I feel like we all have these moments like when we're younger too, like before we even get onto a stage of like, yeah, acting in theater was totally what I was gonna go into. Like the
Yeah.
putting on the shows for the family members and things like that.
Okay. Do you remember Ashanti's first album?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Wait, tell
You
me
know
about
what I
it.
did? So because I loved her so much, I think maybe I was in middle school. I might have been in elementary school. But what I did was I took her album, I choreographed a dance piece to her album,
You did
and I
not.
made my mother and my grandmother sit down and watch me dance to
Oh
the
my
shot.
gosh.
So I was like,
Bless their
clearly,
hearts.
I was like,
They're
clearly,
always
I'm
down
dancing
though,
for this
aren't
song.
they?
Yeah.
They're always down though, the family members, the
Yeah.
OGs.
They told me how wonderful it was. I was amazing. I was like, yes, thank you. That's what I
Yes,
need,
yes.
validation.
So what inspired you to start a theater company? Because that's a pretty big move, you know?
Yeah, it's a huge move. And then like it seems as if like I just started it and it's like, oh hey, COVID happened, so you can enjoy that.
Love it.
This was a dream of mine since I was 19. So it was my sophomore year of undergrad, and I'd had some discriminatory things happen to me by the time my sophomore year came around. And I said, you know what, I am going to start a theater company at some point. Like, so I was in like my business of theater class, and I was like, you know what, at that point I realized that a lot of people were being ignored in my program, and I went to a predominantly white institution, PWI. And I said, you know what, I want to be able to have a company where those voices are actually heard. So I named my theater company, even back then, I named my theater company Perceptions Theater, and it literally has not changed. And I still
Wow.
have a paper where I wrote out everything and all the actors that were like in my program that I loved. I was like, these people work for me for free for like a little bit.
Oh my gosh, that's
So like
amazing.
it really started from me having issues in undergrad with getting cast. That's what made me start a theater company. But because I wanted to be able to showcase other people so that they didn't have to feel less than.
That's great. And I feel like specifically for Black women, like when we don't get cast in these roles, we're forced to like make our own stuff. Like we got to make our own opportunities. It's just like a thing,
And
you know?
I like it on one end because it's like, yeah, you get to be more creative. You can learn different avenues that you never thought that you might be interested in. However, I don't like it because it's like, what if all I want to do is act?
Yeah.
Now I have to be a script writer. Then I have to be a director. I have to be a cinematographer. Now I got to learn how to be an editor. Then I got to learn how to be a distributor. Then I got to learn how to promote my product. And it's just like, for the love of the Lord, can I just please ask? I just want a contract. I want y'all to do all of that work. And I just want to ask. And for me, like, honestly, the lack of opportunity is why I started directing. And I realized that I loved it. So I'm glad that I love it, because if I didn't, that would like really suck. But I'm an actor, a director. I'm now recently a content creator. So now I have a YouTube channel. So I'm just like, and I'm an owner.
Yeah, I love your channel. Like you did a video of movies to watch besides The Help. And I was like, that viscerally, I relate so well. Like, because I was looking on Netflix and it was like the most viewed, the only like racially centered movie or like Black folk or like movie about the Black experience that people were watching in the top 10 was The Help. And I was like, really?
But they love us. They love us in those struggle movies. They love us in struggle movies.
So like I'm grateful that you made that video, because I'm like, people need to know.
Yeah. And I was seeing that people were making like, I think articles of like, oh, you can watch this instead of The Help. And then they were missing so many movies that I was like, did you not? I was like, did a Black person make this list? Because I just think that you didn't, and you just picked a whole bunch of random movies that had Black people's faces on the cover. Because everybody had like, because it would be like 4 or 5 films, and it was like 13th was always on there. And I'm like, oh, for the love of God, there's more than 13th. 13th is amazing, but they're, you know, of the whole spectrum of Blackness. Like, we got to start all the way at the school to prison pipeline, which is why, like, my number 10 was Hard Lessons with Denzel Washington. That a lot of people don't even know about that film, but it's on Netflix, been on Netflix for forever. And it's about an inner city school where Black kids are treated less than, which starts the issue with poverty in prison and all this stuff. I'm like, if you want to know what leads up to us being the way that, some of us being the way that we are and how angry we are, I mean, you got to start at the source of childhood. You can't just say, oh, well, 13th happened, well, y'all, you know, slavery. Like, yeah, let's do 13th, let's do Hard Lessons, let's do all of these spectrums, and not just The Help where a lady poops in a pie. Or this Black woman who lost her son gets to tell a little white girl how special she is, but no one tells any of the Black women how special they are.
Right. That's so real. And it's like I almost feel like it's like that filter in Google when you're looking at like Google Photos and it tries to find like someone's face, like the familiar face. Yeah. It's like, did Netflix do that?
No, you know, at this point, you know, Black Lives Matter to everybody because they don't want to be canceled. But
right,
so
exactly.
Like, if I get one more email from somewhere that like never cared about Black people,
I'm like, if I had $1 for every email, I could quit all of my jobs, all 3 of them.
For real, like, right? If you really want to do something to help me, how about you donate to me? Donate to a Black person you see on the street. Give them a couple $1,000. Like, if you want to donate, you know, because I just feel a lot of these people, they're doing a lot of lip service. So they don't
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny too, because I feel like I can't speak for all Black people, of course, but like for me, I'm in this weird place where I want to be happy that someone has found this revelation of structural racism and racism in theater. And like, I want to be like, oh, good for you. But on the other hand, I'm like, but we've been saying this.
I'm with you 100%. So this is what I've decided to do, because I've had that battle in my mind as well. I'm like, you know what? Y'all take the money. Because all these companies are now randomly just donating to random Black organizations, like places that never cared before. Now, you know, I'm not talking about the places like that have always cared and have always at some point given out money, but like these huge corporations where I know for a fact that most of your employees, not even half of your employees are even Black, or if you have Black employees at all. And then you're now, we're giving to Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, you know what, Black people, instead of being upset about that, take their money, then never shop there. Like, don't support their business. Take the money and be like, oh yeah, the Black Lives do matter, and use that money to help your organization become bigger and better to support Black people, and then don't ever use that company again. That's how I see it. I'm like, yes, take the money. Be upset that they're trash, but take the money. Take the money. Now, if they want to give it to you, these people have got bailouts. They're fine. Take the bailout money they're offering, and then put your Black dollar into Black businesses. That's how I feel about it.
Oh my gosh, that's such good advice. So what is your theater company's mission?
Okay, so Perceptions Theater, this is what we're all about. Perceptions Theater, what we do is we change the way that you perceive the world around you, one show at a time, by shining light on the underserved communities that we live in. Now, we're based out in South Shore, and this area is predominantly Black. There's some Hispanic and white, and then a few other, but it's predominantly Black. And our mission, like I said, we want to show underserved communities. So we don't only mean race, but race is a big thing. So people who don't get shown on stage as often, but we also want to be able to show work from artists of color and Black artists, because I like to separate them, because I'm like, I don't like to put Black artists and artists of color in one box, because I feel like a lot of times then Black gets pushed to the bottom when it comes to like, okay, now we need to support, where is everybody? The Black artists and artists of color being able to showcase their work, whether they're directing the product production or whether they're writing it, and also by showing us not only in tragic situations. Because I know a lot of times some theater companies, when they do Black shows, it'll be like a period piece or something that's like really radical, or it's like Queen and Sim level of triggering for Black people. But like white audience is going to eat it up because they're like, oh my God, this is the plight of a Black person I never knew. I'm like,
it's like we go to restaurants too and like sleep and fall in love. Like we do normal things like that too.
I'm like, that's what I want. I'm like, you know, we are more than being shot by the police. Like I want to see something else. Can I laugh? Can I be happy? So
yeah.
So our company, we range in the topics that we discuss. So not only race, but like different topics that aren't always like talked on. Like some of the plays that we had to revamp our season, because you know now everything is COVID and everything shut down. The entertainment industry is slowly opening back up, but a lot of theaters aren't opening back up as quickly as some filming is. So what we're doing is with our some of our shows are like about toxic masculinity and how, you know, let boys be boys, don't try to make them into men before it's too soon, and so just like different subjects like that as well. So like subjects that people don't like to touch on or don't get enough attention, as well as showcasing the community we actually live in. Because one thing I noticed is that some places they don't actually become a part of their community. They'll have a product, like their building will be there, but they don't actually want to be a part of the community. And that's a huge thing for us, is that we want to be able to benefit from the community and have the community benefit from us. So we also work on partnering with local businesses in South Shore to like have our shows there, to have them have concessions from Black-owned businesses. We actually just partnered with a Black-owned gourmet popcorn company called Enjoy Your Corn. So we're going to be working with them.
Oh, I love that. Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
So instead of just having some like random popcorn from like the store, we'll get a Black-owned business to have their popcorn at our show. So that's you know, people can get concessions from that and help support a local business. So that's a big part of also what we do, is shining light on underserved communities and actually helping the community that we're a part of.
That's amazing. And I feel like that's what theater should be, like serving the community rather than this sort of like self-flagellation thing. Like, because I feel like it's really easy to let it go in that route, especially talking about like donors and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like theaters are realizing more and more, at least I hope they are, that this new generation of thespians require more than just, you know, something that looks like you paid $1 million for it on stage. Like, I think now we actually want something, especially now, art that makes an impact and that actually affects real humans. So I commend you on that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what specific struggles have you had as a Black actor in terms of anti-Blackness or colorism, or, you know, whatever spectrum of racism?
Oh, do I have stories for you?
I bet you do.
And my very first one, I'm going to go back to when I originally said why I started my theater company, when I was an undergrad. So what happened is, in my institution, we were doing a show, and the show was called The Importance of Being Earnest.
Mm.
And so I was a theater and directing major, and because I didn't do musical theater, because that's just not what I wanted to do. So the only other option, if you were going to be an actor at that institution, was to be a theater and directing major. So I was like, I'm never going to take a directing class. I'm just going to do the theater part. But that quickly changed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I auditioned for The Importance of Being Earnest. And at that time before then, I'd also auditioned for other shows, and I would always get callbacks. I would get rave reviews about, oh, you did such a great job, Myesha, and everything like that. But then I wouldn't get cast. So we were doing The Importance of Being Earnest. I auditioned, made it to callbacks, made it to final round where they were like lining up, oh, who looks good next to each other and type of situation. Next day, cast list comes up on the call board. Name is nowhere to be found. And so we were allowed to go to our professors, and ask them, about notes. So I went over to my professor's office and I said, hey, I just wanted to know, because I was still so green, and I felt at that point in my life, I was like, oh, I'm an artist. Like, art is open to everybody. It doesn't matter what you look like. Like, that's what I thought, because that's what was told to me. Art is open to anybody. It doesn't matter what. You can create art. And so I went to get feedback. So I wasn't thinking anything negative. I just thought I'd get really good feedback, like, oh, what I could do better next time to get cast. And my professor said, oh, Myesha, you were wonderful. No, you didn't have to change anything. Like, you were great. The only problem is there were just no Black people during that time. Yeah. And I was so confused, but because I didn't know how to articulate my thoughts, I didn't say anything. I just knew something was wrong. And I was just like, there were definitely Black people that existed, and this is make-believe, and this is an institution of learning, so you can disband disbelief as much as you want to do. And then, to make me feel better, my professor then told me that he had a friend like me, because how like they always like, oh, I got a Black friend, and it's like the mailman. But he was like, oh, they said, oh, I have a friend like you, and it's hard for them to get work as well. So, get used to it. So I was like, cool story, nice. Thank you for letting me know that my dreams mean nothing because I'm Black.
That's the thing. It's like, I feel like we all at some point, there was a moment, right, where we realized that not only were we Black in the world, but we were Black on stage. And that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we think, I feel like we think that, like, this is a world that I can be whatever I want to be, and I can just be a human being and people will see my soul.
Exactly.
But it's not like that.
It's not. Unfortunately, it's not. So there are some artists who make that possible, who made it to mainstream, that have enough money to be able to produce products. I say people like, Issa Rae, for sure. I love her. She's always going out of her way to support other Black people and Black women. And she said, look, I'm rooting for everybody Black anyway. So, and people like her. And then I think also another director person who helps out a lot, Will Packer. I don't think a lot of people realize how many projects he do that are Black. Just because I do a lot of research now, because, I'm a content creator. So my very first video was actually about #BlackAF and how I felt about that TV series on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So much controversy.
There was so much controversy over it. And then as I was looking up Black directors and just people in the industry who have enough money to make certain things happen, I was like, well, Pastor, you invested in almost every Black movie in the world, pretty much. I mean, good Lord.
I didn't even know that.
Really, and I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that how many Black artists he's helped. Wow. And I was just like, wow, okay. And so I think those people are wonderful, but there's so few of them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that was my first experience with anti-Blackness in the world of acting. Mm-hmm. I would say my second experience in anti-Blackness would be that I remember, that are that whole big moments in my life, things you never forget. This is etched in my mind. Was when I went to get my first acting agent. I had just come off like a high because I was still young, but I had just filmed the movie 12 Years a Slave, and I was like, because at first I never thought that I would even be interested in doing TV and film at all. And I got blessed with an opportunity to be a part of that because due to an alumni from my college who came back to teach us about TV and film acting, and I just didn't care. I was like, I don't care about that. I'm doing theater. I'm going to be on Broadway. Don't nobody care, and that's about any TV and film. And then I ended up getting called to, and so then he said, give us your headshot resume. Gave that to him. Ended up getting called to do an audition for 12 Years a Slave. I didn't know what it was. Didn't know it was a book. I was young. I was like partying in college. I was like, look, whatever. I don't care about that. And so I originally told them no. And then my friends made me call them back and tell them, yes, she will come to the audition. And my friends actually drove me. Because I didn't have a car either. I was young, broken in college. Whatever. And so my friends actually drove me all the way to New Orleans. And it was 4 hours away from the college that I went to. They drove me all the way to New Orleans so that I can audition. So like my friend, they are the real MVP.
Man, that is a good friend.
I plan on thanking them when, I get my Oscar and my Tony. I plan on very much thanking them for
Yes.
But yeah, so I was coming off a high of doing that film. And at the time, nobody, the film didn't mean anything because literally we just finished filming. So no one in the world cared about 12 years. Like no one was talking about this show or anything. But I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can get an agent. So I actually submitted to a lot of different agencies, and one agent actually hit me back up, and it was a Black agency. So I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. It's Black people. I'm about to go in here. They're about to sign me. And so I went in for my audition with them, and I brought my headshots, and I gave my headshots to the agent. And he was looking through them, and he was like real quiet. And they just didn't make me feel welcome, which just made me feel weird because I was just like, well, y'all Black. I thought like at least there'd be something warm. I mean, like, I'm young, like, how old I am. I was like 19 going on 20. And I still was really young. And he's just very standoffish. And he's going through my headshots. And then he closes it and he says, well, the only roles you ever play are slaves because your hair looks like that. And I had an afro, like a little small afro at the time. And I was just so confused. I was like, what do you mean the only roles I ever play are slaves? Because my hair looks like how it does when it came out. Like, I was born with this hair. So I could only play a slave because of the hair I was born with.
Oh, so problematic.
So problematic. And so that's why I don't think people realize, like, in the entertainment industry, you can get it from white people and people that look like you at the same time. And so it's like you fighting a double battle of just trying to get seen and noticed. And so those two really stand out to me the most, I would say, as far as any anti-Blackness I've encountered. I'm trying to think, have I more recently? I mean, I have been stopped by the police quite a few times.
That is honestly I've never been stopped by the police, and that's a huge fear of mine. Like,
good for you. Good for you, girl. Because they don't like me. I don't know why. My daddy's the police, so maybe I don't understand. But he's not the police here. He's the police in Louisiana. And so, that's a whole nother story. But like, it's so weird because I've been stopped by the police while I was on tour. So it was me and my other Black actors. We were on
y'all
tour.
Were together.
Yeah, we were together. Okay. And they stopped us and they were like, oh, where y'all going? And I'm just sitting there like, what do you mean? Like, why would that be your question? Why is that the first thing that come out of your mouth? And what I've learned also, because from my father, I also learned like when police are just stalling, like when they don't have anything. So like, I know a lot of their little tricks and tactics. So normally when you're like, oh, where y'all going? It means you have no reason to stop me, but you're trying to figure out if I'm going to tell on myself real quick so you can take me to jail.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, oh, where you going? And we're just like, what are we stopped for? Like, why did you get behind us? Because we were on the interstate, mind you. So like, it's so unsafe. I hate when the cops stop people on the interstate because I'm just always so worried about, like, cars, anything. Somebody can get in a wreck. It's the interstate. So they stopped us over on the median. And it was like, oh yeah, where y'all going? And we're like, oh, we're a touring theater company. And mind you, we literally had this shirt of the theater company on. Like, everybody in the car had the theater company shirt on. And in the back of and it was a big van, actually, not a car, it was a big van. It had all our like equipment and stuff in the back. And we were like, oh, we're a touring theater company, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, well, I've never heard of a touring theater company before. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm sorry that you're not cultured. That's a personal issue. I didn't say that, but
right. Like, that's not my fault.
You know, actually, as soon as he had stopped us, I actually started recording, because this was during the height of like a lot of the Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it just made me very anxious. So anytime I got stopped by the police, I would just record it. And I would only ever actually pull a phone up to show their faces. Like, things got escalated for some reason, but thank the Lord, it never got that far. But yes, I was recording it, and they took the driver's ID to literally go see if they had any warrants, honestly. And then they ran their ID, and they came up clean, because we didn't have it. Like, we're actors, and we shouldn't have to even be held to that high of a standard. It's another thing I don't like with Black people, that you have to be held to such a high standard as being the ultimate American in order for your life to matter when it happens to the police. Like, we could have been a bum on the street. Don't bother people. It's just like, so simple. So he ran his ID, ran the plates on a car to make sure that it wasn't stolen or had any tickets. Then he comes back to us and gives him back his ID and says, here's a speeding ticket, because y'all were speeding.
Just looking for things.
Exactly. And it was so crazy to me, because I was like, well, if we were speeding, wouldn't that have been the first thing you would have said to us when you stopped us? You know how fast you were going back there? But that didn't happen. So that's another thing. And that's happened to me a few times as an actor, where I've been stopped by the police in the midst of either going somewhere to party with other actors, but it's always been when I'm in the car with other Black actors. Like, when I've been in the car with white actor friends and stuff like that, we've never been stopped by the cops. It's only when I'm in the car with other Black actors.
See, now I know why it's never happened to me, because I'm always in shows with a bunch of white people. No, I can't, because I'm in musical theater. I have done more musical theater than like straight plays, and that explains why. Because musical theater. It's a whole nother.
Don't let me fool you unless you think that I do all these Black plays with all these Black people. I don't. Normally, I'm the only Black person in my play. Just recently, I literally just started doing plays where there were more Black people in them, which
must have been so cathartic.
Thank you, other Black people.
Oh my God!
So I've done a few here and there, but a lot of times, I don't want to say unfortunately, because these are our stories, but a lot of it, and I'm a very dramatic actress as well. So I think that has a lot to do with the roles I end up getting, which are always so lamenting, but I'm hoping to get more comedy stuff so that I can do something that's more happy. But when I have done when I've been in a cast where it is an all Black cast, it's normally a very heavy show anyway. So it's always a show about racism.
Yeah.
You're never happy.
Yeah.
But now as an adult,
always.
Yeah, as an adult, when I do shows with white people, when I'm casting their shows, I made it important to me that if I'm gonna be the only one, I'm not doing any tragic shows. You're not gonna have me be the only one with a cast full of white folk. It's just not happening. So normally those shows that I choose when I do cast for white people, they're very happy for the most part, or there have to be more Black people in it for me to feel comfortable enough to do a show where it's really heavy. Because then if it's a very heavy show and there's no one who looks like me, it's just hard for me to actually make it through the show. Your mental health takes a toll. Yeah. I don't think people realize that with actors. Mental health takes such a big toll when you take on certain roles and when you're just dealing with your own atmosphere, definitely of Blackness. It can be a lot. Even right now, I have to take sometimes days off. I've been depressed, and then with these things that are happening and continue to happen, and to think that we're making progress with, people are doing the Black Lives Matter marches and all this other stuff. And I'm just okay, well, maybe this time it'll be different. It'll be different from the 1992 riot of, in LA because of Rodney King. It'll be different from the civil rights with Martin Luther King and Malcolm in the 60s. It'll be different with the issues with Emmett Till. It'll be different. And then I find out, I'm continuing to find out more and more things that are still happening. Just today, a cop held 4 little black boys at gunpoint because they crossed in someone's yard to like get to like, I don't know if they were going to the park or what, but I didn't want to watch the video. So I heard if it moved past it once I realized it was an actual video, because I'm like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just trying to do a shortcut to get to another area. So they like crossed between someone's backyard. And thank God that the neighbors happened to be there and they recorded it and were like, you know, you don't need to have those guns out on those kids. Because I feel like if they hadn't been there, it'd have been another, you know, George Floyd. You know, and Breonna Taylor and so many other ones, and Ahmaud Arbery and all these people. And so, I don't know, I just feel like we're hoping for progress, and it feels like when we're taking a step forward, it like we pushed a step back. And now that we're doing, you know, the Black Lives Matter, a lot of Black theater artists are actually speaking up a lot more and starting to make movements for themselves and other Black artists to express the discrimination, like what you're doing, which I love that you wanted to interview with me about this, because I'm like, yes, because it is a big issue, and people, either they're so privileged they don't realize, or they literally just don't care. And that's what I figure. It's one of the two.
Yeah, especially like, because I feel like, yes, theater in general is very white, but also musical theater is like, I can't think of any elevated Black musical theater writers in the canon, like, you know, and we don't talk about that. We know a lot about Nina Simone. We don't know about her life. We can quote her songs backwards and forwards. We don't know anything about her, like, and not we, but you know what I mean.
I totally know what you mean.
Yeah. And so it's like, it starts to feel really dehumanizing. And honestly, I wouldn't say so much my high school, but my college musical theater experience, though I was blessed with mentors who got it and who knew how to pull my strengths out of me. A lot of the time it felt very dehumanizing. Like it was like I had to show up as the type of Black person that they were used to seeing, or the type of Black person that was marketable for them. You know, and there's no space for the vulnerable, you know, emotionally available Black girl on stage. Like there aren't spaces for that. And so that really did a number on me, and I'm grateful to have had like a couple Black faculty members to be able to.
How is that of me? How is it having Black faculty members? Because I cannot relate. My entire department was white.
No.
So like there was no support.
Oh no. I mean, honestly, like it made so much of a difference. Even having one in your corner to be like, don't worry, you're okay. Like, and just to validate you like that, it makes such a difference. Not saying that there shouldn't be more than one, because there should be more than one. But yeah, just having that made so much difference, especially because I came from a background where I was never going to take voice lessons on my own. I was never going to take ballet lessons on my own. My family wasn't going to do that. And so being in the musical theater environment, being in that cohort was really the only training that I could get. And so like if you associate like that kind of moldable training and the trauma, like it can really do some damage if you don't have leadership that understands that side of you, or understands that side of the equation. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to do musicals for like 5 minutes. Like,
and then you're fact, like,
I can. Yeah, like
it's rough out here.
I can sing, but I refuse to do musicals. I think for the most part, like there's only like 5 musicals I would willingly do if I actually put in the effort. But in undergrad, that's when I would get cast in musicals. However, it would always be a musical that dealt with race, and I just didn't like it. Like my first musical was The Wiz, and then when I started, they did Hairspray, they did West Side Story, just everything that had to do with race. That's when they were like, come on, Black people, come on down. And
it's your time.
I keep doing shows about my race.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, it was either I was the one Black person in the ensemble, or like the one person of color in the ensemble, or the character who was racially ambiguous and was just like the diva. or the sassy.
Because you can only be a diva if you're racially ambiguous.
I mean,
you can only be a diva if you're racially ambiguous. If you have that, if you bring that same energy and you darker, then you just angry. They like that role too.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Oh gosh, but got out of there in one piece, and that's the thing too. Is I feel like being an artist as a Black person, like being an artist in general, is hard and takes a toll on you mentally. But like being a Black artist is like you have to find ways to validate yourself even more. Like you have to dig even deeper because there's as many people as they're going to tell like the white person next to you you're going to get the no's times 2 or times 3. And so you really, and even when you do make it to a certain point, there will be questions of whether you got there by pure merit or by talent alone, so.
Exactly. There's so many, and so many talented Black actors who don't get the recognition they deserve, and it hurts my feelings because I'm always like, come on, these people are amazing. Are you like not seeing what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
And that's also, and because of that, that's made me not have faith in award shows. Like I learned a long time ago I think I was watching, it was some interview that Denzel did, and he's done like a million of them. But it was one interview in particular where he said something about he doesn't care about award shows. And he's like, it doesn't matter about the award. It matters about the quality of your work. Who cares how much work you do if the quality of it's not worth it? And that made me feel better coming from another Black actor who's very successful, who's gotten awards. Although he deserved awards for the things he didn't get an award for. Like the man deserved an Oscar a long time ago. Like Malcolm X
like I'm still waiting.
X was his Oscar. Like, and even I'm looking back on it, like The Help. Viola didn't get it for The Help. And, I love Octavia Spencer. However, I feel like when they give us certain awards, it's confusing to me because I feel like Viola did a lot of heavy lifting in The Help. She like kind of carried that entire movie.
Yeah.
And then they thought it was funny that Octavia pooped in a pie. So it was like, oh, she gets one because she was funny. Like, what?
It's like we can only sorry. It's like we can only succeed in the image that they want us to. Like, it's like, if you fall in line with this image we have of you, then you can succeed. But if you don't, we don't know what to do with you.
Exactly. And then like certain things that I just find so disrespectful. Like I'm happy that they finally recognize these people, but things I find so disrespectful. Like when they finally like gave Cicely Tyson one, and it was like an honorary one, and I'm like, honorary?
I'm like,
do you know this woman's filmography? There is no honorary. You should have been, and it's just like you don't have and then I just learned like you have to not put faith into these white award shows for sure, because when you look at the board, most of them white. Even though the Academy Board is supposed to be getting more diversified, it just, to me, the last Oscars still lacked so much diversity. So it's like clearly something is just not hitting. So that's why I'm just like, you know what? It doesn't matter how many awards you get nominated for, how many awards you win. It matters on the quality of work and the people that are impacted by it. There are shows that have never gotten a single award, and people have been so impacted by them.
Oh my God!
Or, shows that have.
Yeah, like If Beale Street Could Talk. Can we talk about If Beale Street Could Talk?
I love that movie.
Gorgeous. What in the world? How did Green Book get an award over If Beale Street Could Talk?
And Green Book has so much controversy around that because it was told from the eyes, once again, of a white person.
Exactly.
How is the book going to be about Black people? I'm just so tired of these period pieces that tell Black lies through white eyes. So it's so
yeah.
I'm just like, what universe are we living in? It's crazy to me. So when I actually see Black artists tell their own work, I'm like, okay. I'm just like, that's what I need to see. That's what I deserve to see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of hurdles have you had to overcome as a director?
I'll say my first one started in college. Like, it all starts in college, right?
It all comes out of the war.
All my trauma stories started in college. So I decided that I was going to direct, started taking directing classes, started, because we had to do scenes. So each class pretty much, we would do a scene from a play and we would cast it and we would like rehearse it and get people to act out the scene in our class. And so my directing teacher put me aside and was like, hey, you're really good at directing. Like, how could you bring this out of these people? And the people that I was casting were all the people that they never cast. So I was casting the Black people and the non-favorite whites. So I would put them together and I would put them in scenes. and I'm just sitting here like, what do you mean? How did I pull this out of them? Like, you could do it if you actually cared enough to. Because a lot of times in these classrooms when it's predominantly white, you don't get that extra attention at all. And I remember I would go to other people's dorm rooms and I would actually coach them through their monologues. Like I would coach them through their class assignments, and it'd be like late at night because no one was helping them. Professors weren't helping them. And so this was a lot of the underclassmen that I was doing this for, because I was very vocal. That's one thing. Like, they may have not cast me as often. However, I was very vocal about the fact that they were not going to stop my shine. Like, I refuse to be put in a corner because you don't know what to do with this boisterous Black girl. Like, I'm not doing it. So I would say my first one was when I did my only second season show, and that's in my institution. I'm sure in a lot of other theater institutions, the directing students will pick a play and they'll direct it as a part of the season, but it's like their lower stage show, so they don't get as much. They don't get the budget that the main stage shows get. So we working. I think our budget was like $100. Like we're $100.
Wow.
So I had discovered Ntozake Shange. I discovered her actually in high school because I had an amazing, talented drama teacher. His name is Glenn McMahon. Like, he was so freaking caring. Drama teacher. And he actually introduced me, I believe, to For Colored Girls. And he was a white man, like a white man from California. And he introduced me to For Colored Girls. And I was like, oh my God, all these monologues of Black women. And so that stuck with me. So once I got to college, and I actually was like, oh, I want to do a second season show. And how you apply to the second season show is like, they just had a sheet of paper and they were like, all you had to do was like put your name on it and say what show you wanted to direct. And pretty much that's all you had to do, but they didn't guarantee you were going to get a show. And I was sitting there just like, all you have to do is just fill out this piece of paper and you might get a show. And I was like, well, I've been taught all my life, you got to work 10 times as hard. So I think I might need to do something more than just fill out this piece of paper. So what I did is I got some of the drama students together and I actually filmed a trailer for Colored Girls. I filmed a trailer for the play that I wanted to direct. Then I gave them like the first 10 pages of blocking. I designed what I wanted the set to look like. I rendered costumes. I put it all in this binder and I gave it to them. And I was just like, maybe that'll help me really get my show because I have a solid plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I got my show. I will say that.
Yes.
My show.
Yes.
However, it was a bumpy ride the rest of the way after that. So the play originally had 7 the play had 7 ladies in it. And unfortunately, they would only allow me to have 6 actresses. So I had to literally delete a whole woman out of this lady's play.
Oh, man.
And distribute all her monologues to the other 6 ladies. And this is where it would have really benefited me to have Black professors, because I knew that we didn't have that many Black girls in our department. And at the time, I just didn't understand the significance of how important it was to really only Black women and other women being able to enjoy and understand and relate to certain things. But it was really for Black women, and I didn't fully get that. I just was like, oh, this is for women. Like, this is a play for women. And so that's the mindset I had. And I was like, well, I can make this work, even though we don't have the amount of Black women that I would like. I could, maybe I could cast some women that aren't Black and make sure that they don't say any of the lines that have anything to do with Black people. Mm-hmm. Now, this is where I should have had a Black professor who was like, no, you go, you're not going to do that. But I didn't. So originally when I had auditions for my show, I cast it. And I had 6 actors. I cast it, and 5 of the actors were Black women, and 1 actor was a white girl. And the white girl, it was like one of the people they don't like. Like, it's just people that they didn't cast anyway. So it wasn't like I was stealing one of their prized possessions. It was a girl that literally was discriminated against in our theater department.
Oh, man.
And so I gave them the first cast list. And when I tell you they did not like my cast list, they told me to take one girl off of my cast list because she wasn't an actor. All she could ever be was a dancer. And then they told me how I couldn't have some of my other Black ladies I wanted because they were already going to be doing the musical for them. So they can't do 2 shows at one time, which was confusing to me because their favorite white students were doing multiple shows at the same time. And so, you know, because I had no other higher authority or even realized, I don't even fully think I realized how much discrimination I was encountering. So I was like, okay, you don't like the cast list. I'll give you a second one. Gave them a second cast list. Now I had 4 Black girls and 2 white girls. And both of the white girls were still girls they didn't like. So, and then I still kept the dancer girl on the list because she was phenomenal. Like, she was amazing. Gave them the second cast list. They told me for a second time, take the dancer off your list because she can't act, she's not good enough. And then they told me they still couldn't give me some of those Black girls because they were using them and it wasn't going to change. So I came back with my final cast list, which was 3 Black girls and 3 white girls. That cast list they approved.
That's
and
like,
I just didn't have, and you know, and my only guidance were two of my best friends who were a year ahead of me in the theater program. So they just graduated and they were, you know, out there being working actors. So, you know, they're a year older than me. So they don't really know either that, you know, how things should and shouldn't be when it comes to our Black art because they were taught by the same white professors.
Yeah.
So, you know, they were helping me out the best that they could, and I appreciate them for that. But overall, the piece itself, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. People, it sold out every night.
Oh, yes.
It sold out every night. And if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have cast it that way because of what I know now. However, at the time, I had no guidance. And I was like, well, I made sure that, you know, the white women didn't say they were Black because I was like, clearly you're not a Black woman. And but that's just an example of like you being in an institution and like really no one was helping me. Like we were supposed to have mentors, but no one helped me through their process. And then one of the mentors, she was like, oh, well, you never emailed me. Apparently the emails had gotten confused between her and my stage manager, which was also another Black student, that they didn't use. And she never got any of the emails. And this is a professor that never got any of the emails. And I'm sitting here like, so if you never got any of the rehearsal emails, wouldn't you then ask your pupil, hey, how are rehearsals going? You know, have y'all started?
Like, act invested. Never. Wow.
Never. They never said anything to me. They didn't say anything until it was like tech week. And they were like, oh, well, I just thought you had it together because you never asked for any help. Aren't you supposed to guide me? Like, you're a professor. I'm paying for you to guide me. I literally paid for you to work here.
Thousands of dollars.
So, yeah, that was my first year. Yes, thousands that I still haven't paid off.
Right.
They're going to get it when they get it.
Oh,
like,
man.
they knew I was broke when they gave me that loan. So, they're not getting it anytime soon.
It's wild,
but
too.
Yeah, that was my first incident.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. It's wild too, because I feel like there's this perception, at least this connotation when it comes to representation or diversity, where white people will be like, oh, it's to make them feel better. It's to make them feel included. But no, like sometimes there's literal doctrine or there are tools that you need as a Black artist because you literally move through the world differently than white people. And there are things that you require along the way that younger Black artists need to know. Like, it's not just like a feel good, feel included type of thing. Like there are actual things within Black art that you have to be conscious of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that was my first experience with that, with the anti-Blackness and discrimination as far as being a director. And it started all in undergrad when they were just like, and it's crazy because I fought so hard because like I told you, my original cast list had exclusively, except for one girl, all Black girls, and they literally made me take almost all of the Black girls that I wanted completely out of the show. And then demoted one and made her seem as if all she could ever do is be a dancer. that she wasn't good enough to be an actor, as if people can't be multifaceted in different aspects of art. So there's that. But just in general now, me as a professional director where I'm actually getting paid to do it and it's not just in school.
Yes.
When I'm directing my own projects, I make sure I have Black people in there. Like, I don't care. I'm hitting up the Black person. I've made it, I make a Rolodex for myself so I know which actors I've seen in other shows, and I walk up to them after I watch a show and I'll be like, hey, can I get your contact information? I think you're really good. And I'll reach out to actors when I'm doing my own stuff. Now, when I'm working with other people, it can be a little different. There have been times where I have assistant directed, and because I've directed in Louisiana and I've also directed here in Illinois. So I've had a few different directing jobs, and sometimes in those casting rooms, like I am the lone fighter for the Black people. Like, not all the time. I've worked with some companies that are very inclusive, but that's not all the time at all. Like, I have worked with companies where literally a Black actor would come in there, do an amazing monologue. They will walk out as soon as they like are out of the door. The people are like, yeah, we're not calling them back. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, well, why? And they don't have a valid reason. And so then I push and I push and I push and I'm like, okay, you don't like them. Cool. But I think they are good. And just hear me out. Just give them a call back. You don't have to cast them. Just at least call them back so you can make a second decision. Like, see them again. So there have been a lot of, like, actors who don't even know this, but, because I ain't gonna, like, I ain't gonna say their names, but it's actors who I've, like, gotten cast in shows that, like, nobody wanted them, and it was only because they were Black. It had nothing to do with their talent. And, so that's a thing that I've learned on the directing side of things, where I've had to fight for actors. Like, I've had to fight for so many Black actors when it comes to actually getting cast, or at least getting a call back. And then what's crazy is these theaters will have, oh, we want everybody to come audition for us. We do believe in diversity. But then, but when they say diversity, they mean they're told that they bring on behind the scenes a crew member, which is like me. And then now I'm supposed to speak for all of Black people because we're a monolith, apparently. And now I have to fight for every single Black artist that I see that comes into an audition room, because I know 9 times out of 10, it's already working against them. They don't want you. Like, as soon as you walk in, which is hard to hear, which is why I think more Black people should strive to be behind the camera as well, so that they can be in those rooms to help make more decisions as much as they can. Because, I can only do so much. When it's my project, like, yeah, I'm hiring us, period. But when it's other people's projects, I can at least fight. And what I tell myself is the least I could do is fight to make sure you have a callback. But there have been instances where, like, legit, a Black actor would give me they all, and they'll walk out and they'll say, we don't want them. And then a white actor will come in and they'll be mediocre as can be, and they'll get a callback.
Yeah, the bar is raised so high for Black actors. I feel like even in terms of how you present yourself, like if you're not more polished than the average white actor, then that could send the wrong message. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So knowing that, or I guess in relation to that, what are some hurdles that you've had to overcome as a theater director, specifically as an artistic director of a theater, specifically of a theater that is focused on making art accessible for Black folks and more people of color?
We are 6 months old, so we haven't had to endure too much. But one thing I can say is that I always fight. When it comes to my theater company, when it comes to casting, I am fighting for Black people and I'm fighting for people of color, and you will be cast because I own it. My name is on the legal documents for this company, and you're going to be cast, period. I'm basing it off of how talented you are, but you're going to be cast because that's the whole point. Is and our casting system works like I don't know if you ever seen Brandy Cinderella.
Yes, the only Cinderella.
Yeah. Yes, Brandy Cinderella, and I love the way that they casted the film, because it was like, oh, y'all just threw everybody in there. You didn't care what race anybody was, and you was the sister, you was the brother, y'all don't look nothing alike. And so that's how our casting system is. So unless the playwright states themselves that the people have to be a certain ethnicity because that's how the story is written, because that adds to the story, then I open it up, which means that even work that is done by predominantly white actors, not at Perceptions, we mixing it up. Everybody gets a chance. We're not just gonna have a cast of just only white people, because I'm a Black woman. I know how hard it is for Black artists. So I would never sit there and own a company and then not put my hand down to pull up another Black artist.
Right. Absolutely.
So for my company, it hasn't been hard. I haven't dealt with any discrimination yet. I'm sure there's going to be discrimination, but I haven't dealt with any yet. And most of the other companies I've worked on partnering with, they've all been Black-owned companies. So I haven't experienced any discrimination so far as being an owner. But I will say that I know that it's hard for a lot of Black people to actually start theater companies. So that I will say.
Oh, how so? I don't know anything about it, so.
And that's like that right there, because there's so much that we as Black people just don't know, because we don't have that equity. We don't have the ability and the privilege to be educated on certain things, which is why, like you said earlier, about the fact that Black actors aren't as polished as a white actor when it comes to, like, you know, how they present themselves in the room or something like that. And that's because the lack of opportunity. A lot of these Black artists live in predominantly Black neighborhoods, and a lot of times people are either lower class or middle class or barely hanging on in a lot of these Black and people of color communities. So when it's like that, then your schools are not being funded, which means your arts program, it doesn't exist, which puts you in an even bigger disadvantage. And me, I was lucky because I was able to go to predominantly white schools for most of my educational career, because my mother did what she had to do to get me in those schools. I'm not going to say it was legal, but she did what she had to do to get me in those schools. And honestly, if it wasn't for me picking up acting in that after-school program, I would have never made it to a better elementary school or a better middle school or a better high school, or even went into theater as a college profession and then own my own theater company today, because I didn't know these things. And even as a theater owner, I literally Googled everything. And I feel like a lot of Black people, like I said, we don't have the equity, we don't have that knowledge to be able to just figure it out. A lot of us, we can't just call somebody and say, hey, do you know how to start a company? Do you know how to do this? You have to do the hard work and Google everything. And that's what I did. I literally sat there one day, I Googled how to start a nonprofit company, and I wrote it down, I figured it out. I filled out the paperwork that I needed to fill out. And you know, and the stuff's not free. It costs money. It costs hundreds of dollars to become a legal entity. You know, and that's another thing, because a lot of us don't have money either. As artists, we are pretty broke. And so I had, right now I don't have any jobs because COVID. But,
yeah.
I was working up to like 3 different jobs, not including my acting. And so that I could make sure that I paid for all the stuff to make sure that my business was legal. Because, you know, a lot of times I feel like when Black people own businesses, people already see them as less than.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that you're covered on all aspects. So I didn't want us to get shut down. I didn't want anything to happen legally with taxes or anything. So I made sure I went through the proper legal routes. But that stuff I had to Google. Nobody helped me. Like literally nobody helped me. And I feel like that's another thing. I feel like some Black artists can get to where they've become successful, but then they don't share their knowledge with other Black artists. They don't pass it down. And so then the next generation who should have a leg up, because these Black artists who came before them have helped them make it, are starting right at the same ground that the older artists started, because they're not getting that leg up. And I think it's so unfortunate, because there's room enough for everybody to eat. There's no reason that you can't share your knowledge or your wisdom to another Black person. I mean, I just like, because this is how I am. I'm like, I'm so empathetic for people. I'm, you know, especially my people. And I have no problem with like, hey, you want to, you know, you need help. You want to start a company or whatever. I would have no problem like helping out people in the aspect. But when it comes to like, I think that's also a reason why a lot of Black people don't own a theater company as well, because the lack of knowledge on how to start a theater company, and especially the lack of money. Now, I'm not going to say by any means that Perceptions Theater is rich. We are far, far from rich. But if anyone would like to donate, they are more than welcome.
Yes, donate.
Yes,
Isn't it funny how? Yeah. Isn't it funny how oppression can make us feel like there's a sense of scarcity? Like, especially as Black artists, I feel like we feel there's a sense of scarcity. Like if somebody else who looks like us gets something, then they're like taking something away from us. When like the way we should look at it is
conditioned.
Yeah. And like this person is paving the way for us rather than taking something away from us, you know?
Mm-hmm. When honestly they're adding on to your greatness. I'm sorry, when I see Issa, like I watch Lovebirds. I don't know if you've seen Lovebirds on Netflix.
So funny.
Lovebirds. And yes, I loved it. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. A Black woman and an Indian man, people who would never
do it
in a rom-com.
All right, rom-coms. I see you on the come up rom-coms.
Yeah.
And so on the come up.
Like I was watching her and I was so happy for her. I felt like I won. Like I was like, it wasn't even me. And I was like, yes, that's me up there. That's me.
Yes.
Like I just felt so good for her. And I just feel like if we all felt that way and we all supported one another, I feel like we would be a lot further in the art community for sure. Because like you said, a lot of times, and I think it's because white people have conditioned us to think that, oh, there's only one seat. But there's not. There's multiple seats. And if you know what, and if they don't want you at the table, shoot,
make your own. Right. Is, amen to that.
Yeah, which goes back to like the Black dollar. You have to invest in Black businesses. Like you can't say, why aren't there Black businesses, but then you've never bought from a Black business, or you've never donated to a Black business. Like, how do you think these companies start? A lot of Black businesses start with $0. A lot of these businesses, they are paying people out of literally the checks they get paid from their day job. And that's how I work as well. Like at this point, anything that comes out of my company, it comes from my money from stimulus checks and money I'd already saved up from my day job. And so we've been blessed enough because there have been some Black people who have been very loving and very caring and have helped us out. There's, I don't know if you know who Celeste Cooper is.
Yeah.
But she's phenomenal. And she's a company member at Steppenwolf, and she actually hit me up, went out of her way, and was like, hey, we're doing this 5-part virtual panel, and we're supporting a Black business each week. We want to support your Black business.
Wow.
Just out of the blue. And I was so thankful. And they helped us raise over $300 in 1 week just to help support us during this time where we're a brand new company. Nobody's allowed to go out really, and you can't commune in a theater space. And right now we're working on doing virtual things, which I'm so happy that we are, so we can get some content out there to people. But just like that, that's like that simple gesture of like, I'm doing something, let me help another Black person on my way up. Because I feel like you can only get blessed from that. And so when people like that do things for you, that's when I'm like, yes, that's what we should be doing in our community. Like we should be uplifting one another to become better. And when you only have a few of us in the arts community as it is, there's no reason we should ever be divided.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think, well, first of all, we know that the African diaspora is vast and we come in all kinds of different shades and tones.
Yes, we do. We do.
Yeah, but do you think that there is social capital, or do you think that there's a premium when it comes to colorism on lighter skinned Black folk, or rather like how they're cast in comparison to darker skinned Black folk? I think I'm specifically referring to how women are cast. Do you think there's a sort of association there?
Yes. I think, which is unfortunate because they started, like, colorism would have never happened if we were never, like, I mean,
right.
I don't know. I was going to say if we were never enslaved, but I'm not sure because colorism is everywhere. It's not just Black people who have colorism issues. But yes, I do. Because in America, how Black people have, because of slavery, how the color has worked. Like the lighter you are, most of the time you get to work in the house, or you get to do, supposedly less strenuous work, but at the end of the day, y'all slaves. So I mean, this, you know, but I think it started there. And then what they do is a lot of times they'll cast lighter skinned Black women or ambiguous looking Black women in the parts of Black women. And my thing is, I have no issue with lighter skinned Black women getting cast. However, I have an issue with them getting cast majority of the time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like then now it's getting to the point where they don't even want light skinned Black women. They want ambiguous ones.
Yeah.
The ones who are literally have almost no percent of Black in them at all.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what you're doing is you're continuing to erase Black people, and especially Black women, more and more, so that now when little Black girls look on TV, they don't even see themselves. And there's so much right now with everything is so social media, and so many people are so insecure about who they are. And when you can't even look on a TV on a Black sitcom and see a Black person that looks like you, I think it does trigger you, and I think it does make you feel less than. So I think that they do this on purpose, where they'll say, oh, the docile, pretty one, we're looking for an ambiguous Black girl to play her.
Yes.
Then they'll say the loudmouth hood rat or the loudmouth baby mama, she gets to be the dark girl. And I think that's messed up. Or, you know, the dark girl gets to play all the slave roles. Because if you look back on The Help, almost every single Black woman in The Help was extremely dark. I don't think I saw too many light-skinned women, if any at all, that were cast to be a servant. So it's just like things like that, little subtle things like that, where it's like, yeah, we'll cast you, but we'll only cast you for this. And I feel, and, you know, and I can't put all that weight on light-skinned women, because how can you dismantle a system that you did not create?
Exactly.
So I feel like for those of them that actually speak out and say, no, I'm not going to take that role from a full Black woman or Black woman who looks Black, because unfortunately for us, you can't decide what your phenotype is going to be. You don't, genetics happen, and you look however you look. But for those lighter skinned Black women who ever actually advocate for darker women, I appreciate that, because the privilege for dark women is like non-existent, it seems, unless you want to like play a slave. Then like you have premium on that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate them that they understand that they have privilege. That privilege may not still be, they're not white, so they don't have white privilege, but they do have, skin privilege, where they are brighter, and at times that they are seen as more desirable. A lot of them get more of the like feminine roles. And I've noticed a lot that a lot of darker Black women will get a lot more masculine roles, especially if she wears her natural hair. And so for me, that's an issue, and I don't like that. So that's why when I mentioned Issa Rae, when I see someone like Issa Rae, where she has her show Insecure, and she has 4 different shades of Black women, and they all get to be sedity. Like, they all get to be cute in their little outfits. The dark ones get to have corporate jobs too. They not just a homegirl down the street, and I'm like, and that's when the story is written by Black people. So I think that a lot of that conditioning where light-skinned women are getting these parts where they are seen as the most desirable, it's not necessarily because of their issue, it's because of the system that has been created. And if, I just feel like more than just speak out and say that that's wrong. I mean, when there's casting notices, like how they had out Straight Outta Compton, where the girls are categorized with A, B, C, and D, and the Black women are the D-list women. That's a deal. I mean,
that's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
And it's funny too, because it's funny too, because it's like we adopt whatever the oppressive system's mentality is. So like if they're telling us, you are pretty and you are not, then we're going to adopt that, because it's the system of power that we're under. Exactly.
And so I still think, even though some people are working to change that narrative where dark women are also seen as feminine and able to do roles where they aren't just stereotypes, I think we still have a long way to go, because there's not enough people creating that content. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are creating that content are Black women who look like that. And I say unfortunately because they shouldn't have to create that content. They should be able to go on an audition and you cast them, and it's fine. And, like I said, not every actor wants to also be a director and an editor and a cinematographer. Some people just want to act. And I think that's wrong of people, and it's very privileged and very discriminatory for you to have to make Black people literally work 10 times as hard to even get in a film. Like in a we got to make our own movies. because you refuse to hire us in yours. Like, there's nothing wrong with when Black people make their own movies as far as like their experience. That's fine. But the reason is because literally, it's a lot of films have been made literally because they won't make them. They won't make films about this. And then instead of them hiring a Black director to be a part of the team, or a Black, stagehand, or a Black whatever, they'll just take the idea and then they'll put their white lens on it. And it's hated because it's not our experience, and you had no one who looked like us be a part of the whole process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's inauthentic, and you can sense it. I think it's funny because I feel like a lot of white artists don't think we can sense this stuff, but we know when something is made from us and we know when something is made for us and when it's not.
I hate that. And when I go see movies where I get duped like that, I'll go see a movie where I'm like, oh, the trailer had Black people in it. And I'm like, oh, Black people. Okay. And I'm spending my little $13. And I'm sitting up here in the movie theater. And I'm like,
wait a minute.
This movie was made for white people.
Right.
This was not made for me. There's Black people in this movie. But you're speaking in a way that's made for white people.
I mean.
And so it's so disappointing because I can't stand movies like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or even theater like that. I don't want to watch that. And if you want to explain this to white people, then you need to put that disclaimer out there. This is for white people. You come see it. Black people, you will be disappointed.
Oh my gosh. I need that disclaimer on everything. That's so real. So I read an article recently, and it was written by a racially ambiguous woman, but she identifies as half Black, half white, or rather half Black and half Latino.
She was I know what you're talking about. She was white, Korean, and Black, and I was like, girl, you the multinational rainbow. I'm like, girl, you have all of the ethnicities and nationalities.
Right.
I was like, you go ahead, girl.
Right. Yeah, and she was saying how she was upset that she couldn't, which here's my thing, like on one front, I understand her frustration because I think that there needs to be the theater industry needs to be more receptive to people who are racially ambiguous and like allow space for that. And that's a tricky thing because theater wants to put people in boxes. Like, we love our boxes, and racially ambiguous people don't fit into a particular box, oftentimes, especially if you have certain features. So on that front, I understand what she was saying. But on the other hand, when she was saying that everyone should be able to play everything, I had to kind of take a step back because I do think optics matter, and I do think racially conscious casting matters. Yeah, so what are your thoughts on that?
I'm so happy you said racially conscious because that's like what I'm always about, because colorblind casting is trash because it's saying you don't see color. I see color. I can see. I am not colorblind. I literally see. I'm conscious in my decisions when I'm casting people. I see that because when you don't see the issues with casting, that's when you still cast all white cast, but you say you were colorblind casting. You clearly don't see it. But no, I agree with you on that. I don't feel that everyone should be allowed to play everything, especially when the role does not call for you. Because I remember seeing that actresses, because I read that article and I saw her headshot, and I was like, oh, sis, you're extremely ambiguous. Like, kind of like, honestly, kind of like Rashida Jones in a sense. Like, and she's even more ambiguous than Rashida, I feel a little bit. And I'm just like, it's hard for you to an extent. It's hard for you. However, I don't feel like everybody should be allowed to play everything. If you're ambiguous and you're able to play Black and you're able to play white, then, because Rashida does that, because she did Black AF, where she was a Black or a biracial woman. And then I'm looking at The Office, where she's a white lady.
Right. Almost completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and for her, because of the way that she did it, I'm perfectly fine with that because she can pass for white. So you are half white. So don't deny any of who you are. You should be able to embrace all of who you are. So the way that she does it, I'm perfectly fine with. And then there's another actress, Maya Rudolph. She can be ambiguous at times. But like Maya Rudolph is my road dog. Like, I love me some Maya
her
Rudolph.
So much.
And because the way that Maya Rudolph always does her roles she get cast in, which I noticed that she makes it very conscious that she has a Black family. Like, And, you know, and if she wanted to, she didn't have to care. She literally did not have to care. She could be like, I pass enough to where people be like, I'm pretty sure she's white, but like something about her a little black.
Mm-hmm.
But she makes it apparent that like, nope, I'm mixed. My mama's black, and
Which I
am
love.
going to make sure that I have black kids playing my children in these shows.
Yes.
And most of the time, she's married to a black person in these movies, and these be in like white rom-coms. Like she'd be that token so-called black friend, and she makes it very adamant. And I feel like she has a lot to do with that. And if she doesn't, then whoever's casting, they are very intelligent when they do shows with her. But I think she has a lot to do with that. She makes it very clear that she has a black family, or you know, that if you, and I appreciate her for that. But I do think that no, if you don't look black and it's a role distinctly calling for someone who looks black and you're biracial, then unfortunately you have to miss out on that role. And there are dark-skinned biracial people. They don't get to play white passing people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then there's biracial people who aren't even mixed with white. Like, you know, the black and Indian person, 9 times out of 10, they're not getting to play an Indian person if they look more black.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's unfortunate, but it's the truth. And I don't think you should take that role away from a full black person or a full Indian person or a full whatever in order for you to feel heard, because all you're doing while you're feeling heard, you've taken a role from someone who's actually what that role asked for in the first place, but they chose you because of how the system works.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you on that. I don't agree that everybody should play everything. I think things sometimes are distinctly a certain way. However, I feel that it needs to be more open to people who are ambiguous, because it's not right to put them in a box when they're more than one thing.
Right, exactly. And I think that's the biggest problem, is taking away, or that should be the biggest focus, taking away those boxes, because they don't work for us anymore. I mean, they never really worked, but now we really know that they don't work.
Yeah, now we're more able to be more vocal about it.
Right.
You know, and I mean, I think that's what it is. It's like we're more vocal now than, I mean, granted, I think people were vocal then, but not very much, especially in the entertainment industry. I don't think people really were allowed to be as vocal as they would have liked to been.
Yeah.
And some people just don't care, which is like, you know, because we're not a monolith as black people. Some black people just don't care, which is, you know, I'm not saying it's okay, or I feel that it's okay. But some just don't care. They don't care about the situation. And they're just out for self. And it's about self-preservation.
Yeah.
So they're going to take whatever they're going to take. And if they have to take it out of your mouth to get it, then it's what it is.
Yeah. Speaking of speaking out, how do you think the current moment of unrest has affected the theater industry, or just the arts industry in general?
I am actually proud of the black artists anyway, who are like starting to speak out a lot more about their experiences.
Yeah.
There's 2 different black artists that I love who also do a lot of theater. One is Amber Riley, who was on the Glee. She started a project on a hashtag Unmutiny is what it's called, I believe, on Instagram, where black people get to express their theater stories. Then there's these other 2 people. Ooh, I'm blanking on the guy's name. However, the girl's name, her name is Aisha Jackson, and she was the standby for Anna on the Broadway's Frozen. And the guy who was the understudy for Kristoff, who's also a black person, they worked together, and they actually started this hashtag called Theater in Color, where black people get to either, you know, you can write about your experience, or you can post a video about the discrimination that you have encountered in the theater world. So I love that these black artists are actually, who have bigger names than some of us smaller black theater artists who may feel a type of way about being blackballed. And at this point, I think no one should care about being blackballed, but it is a reality, because even now they're starting to show less and less of the protests, but the protests are still happening. Yeah. So it's crazy to me. It's like they were all about these protests and putting them on the news every 5 minutes, but now all of a sudden we don't see any protest videos. When I know people are protesting, there are literally protests happening everywhere. They're just not covering it anymore. And I think that if black people make a united front, black theater artists make a front to like continue to speak out, continue to call out these casting companies, continue to call out these people, especially the ones who have enough pull to do so. Yeah. Because when you're, unfortunately, when your name is bigger, it holds more weight when it's like, hey, this person discriminated against me and I'm Denzel. You know what I mean? You like, I'm going to speak out on it or whatever. Not saying that he had this, I don't know his situation, but as far as like Amber Riley and them, that they're actually speaking out. So I commend those actors, and I'm all about it. Like, I feel like we should continue to speak out. Think we should continue to support other Black artists and start supporting Black theater companies. You don't see your work on stage, support Black theater companies. And the more you support them, the more audience and revenue they'll get, which means they'll be able to pay you more money. So I know that's an issue as well with Black theater companies. A lot of times people will be like, well, they don't pay as much as X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, that's because a lot of times they don't get the marketing that they deserve, or a lot of, just different things that come into the fact of how they're able to pay you. And I feel like if bigger artists start working with those smaller companies and start putting their names on those companies, just to help out, like, yo, I'm doing a show here. Yo, I'm directing something here. Or, yo, we're just having a talk back here about something. We're just talking about Black theater. We're going to do it at this Black theater company, and they have enough weight behind the name and they do that. I feel like they gets more shine on that Black theater. And then now people who may have not even known that theater has existed and has been there for years, they now can go to that theater. They're like, oh, I can support that Black company, or I can support this Black company, or, So I think that they should continue to speak out, and I will continue to speak out. But I also know that, like, there are people who are not going to speak out because they don't want to get blackballed, and I get it. So I don't condemn anyone that is afraid, because Black people live in fear every day. So I don't condemn any Black person that's in fear of speaking out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So do you think that this kind of hunger for awareness of the Black experience, especially within the arts, do you think that it's a short-term thing? And what do you think that white artists or non-Black artists can do to help it get some longevity?
The first part of it, I do think that it can be a short-term thing if we don't keep doing it. Because I feel like a lot of times with Black people, we have movements, and then because I think it's something called like protest fatigue, where you get so tired of fighting every day for just to be accepted that, like, you get exhausted, so you don't want to fight anymore. So how I figure is that, hey, you have to take a day off, take a day off. If you have to take a week off, take a week off. However, go back out and fight. Don't ever stop to fight. Keep fighting for it. So I feel like I'm hoping this time around, I'm going to put hope in it, that this time around that it doesn't dissipate and that Black artists keep speaking out. Because there are Black artists who have spoken out before and they've been left out to dry. Like, I'll even say Monique, for example.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me that all these Black artists are now speaking out. And I'm like, so are we going to go back?
Are we going to apologize to Monique?
Kind of like, kind of like with Kaepernick. Like, now all of a sudden the NFL cares and all these players care. And I'm just like, so we're going to go get Cap a job? Or
Right.
You blackball these people. You've ruined their careers. How are you going to change that? And I feel like those people end up being martyrs, and nobody cares about them anymore. It's like, you started it. You started to stand up, but no one cares anymore. Now that it's a group of us standing up, they can't get us all if it's a group. But since you were the lead in it, it's kind of like, and I think it's really unfortunate that happens. But I think if we keep with the momentum and we keep our foot on the neck to keep it moving, then we can make it happen. Now, as far as like white and non-Black artists and how they can contribute and help, honestly, support. Literally support. Like, literally support those artists, support those theater companies, and speak out. If you see that your Black counterpart who's in a show with you has been discriminated against, say something. Don't sit there and say nothing, because you have the privilege of being white. So you have more say-so than you realize. So if you're backing up your Black counterpart, then it's going to be harder for them to discount their reality, which is unfortunate to say, but it's true. Like, be a real ally. If you're going to yell about you're an ally, be an ally. Donate to those companies. Go see some of their shows. Help cast those people. Don't sit there and be cast in a show where everyone is white. For what? Especially when they don't need to be. Now, there are shows where I'm sure there are shows where it's like they have to be white because it's a part of the theme of the show. But if you're in a show and every show you're in, everyone is white, then I don't know why you're working for the theater company, because clearly diversity is not something that they believe in, even though they say they do. So they have to speak out. I feel like if they speak out and if they support, then things will be fine. But that's Absolutely. Really, they just have to speak out, help us speak out.
Absolutely. And do you think there's anything that Black artists can do or, should do?
Keep speaking out.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should keep on speaking out. I think that Black artists should support more Black theater. I think that Black artists should know their rights.
Yeah.
When it comes to the theater community. I think a lot of Black artists don't understand how the actors' unions work, and they don't understand that they can contact them, because I've heard about discrimination from different areas all over with Black theater artists, and they vent to people on like Facebook, or they vent to people on Instagram and stuff like that. And then I always wonder, hey, did you go through the union and tell them to? Did you report it? Because I don't think a lot of Black artists know that that's something that they are allowed to do. You can report discrimination, like Actors Equity. Definitely, if you're in the program, and me, I'm EMC. I can join Equity whenever I feel like it. So I have a card and I have the number to the Equity's office. I've been in equity shows, and if I'm ever, and I have yet to be discriminated against in an equity show, and trust and believe, as soon as I am, I'm calling. And I'm going to get
speed dial.
Your license snatched. You won't be equity anymore. So I think Black artists really need to know their rights when it comes to these actor unions. Rat on them. Don't just tell me on Facebook. Go through the union. And if the unions want to act shady with you, go to the news. The news loves a good race story.
Oh, they do. They eat it up.
So, I think that if we actually know our rights when it comes to the arts community, we support and spend our money not only in the white communities, but in these Black theater companies, because we always say that there's no Black theater, there's no Black directors, there's no Black this and that. But at these Black theater companies where there are these things, I don't see you. Why aren't there more equity Black theater companies? There's like 250 Black theater companies in Chicago. I mean, not Black theater companies, Jesus. There's over 250 theater companies in Chicago. And I think there's only 4 of them that are Black owned.
Wow.
Out of 250, only 4? And out of those 4, only 1's equity? It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we start supporting our own a lot more, that it will increase in revenue, and it'll help some of these companies, the Black theater companies that may want to be equity but don't have the finances to be so, to get there so they can pay you even more money.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. Well, we're about out of time, but thank you so much for joining me. This has been really great. There's so much valuable information that I've just been able to get from this conversation, and I'm sure that all the listeners are able to get as well. You're amazing, and what you do is amazing, and it's inspiring.
What you do is amazing. So thank you for what you do.
Okay, well, you take care of yourself and do whatever you need to do to get through this next season of whatever we're in. It'll all be fine.
And you do the same.
Thank you. Okay, well, you have a good day, okay?
You as well. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, talk to you so soon. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, so grateful to have had Myesha on my podcast. Again, thank you, Myesha. Thank you so much. Mwah, if you're out there listening, you're awesome. And again, Black women are just awesome. Just wanted to say that because we go through a lot, y'all. We go through a lot. And that's something that I'm going to talk about in the next episode. So stay tuned. Also, remember that the podcast is now weekly, and just be cognizant of the new format, which is a panel or guest, and then me speaking individually, then panel or guest, me speaking individually. So that's the new format. I hope you dig it, and follow me on Instagram. You can follow Shabai Moody, or you can follow Plot Twist Please. Follow the blog, and follow this podcast. Subscribe, share, like, all the good stuff. Donate to Perceptions Theater, and keep listening, keep watching. Stay weird, stay curious, and be okay being wrong. Yeah? See you next time. This is just where we're at. This is what you're getting. Love it, like it, deal with it. Who knows?